Pelé. Pelé debuts for Brazil at the 1958 World Cup as a 17-year-old and scores 6 goals, including a brace in the final, becoming the youngest player to win the tournament. Over the next 12 years, he adds 2 more World Cup titles, 1962 and 1970, and finishes his international career with 77 goals in 92 appearances. His dominance makes him the most sought-after footballer on earth, with clubs like Inter Milan and Tottenham Hotspur reportedly ready to break transfer records to sign him. But they never get the chance. In the 1960s, the Brazilian government declares Pelé an official national treasure, passing legal protections that effectively ban foreign clubs from purchasing him. FIFA supports the stance, quietly enforcing restrictions to protect the integrity of Brazil's domestic league. The move is unprecedented and designed solely to stop one man from leaving the country. Pelé stays at Santos until 1974, only allowed to move after his peak years have passed. The global scramble for talent continues anyway, leading to new player protection laws, just in time for another star to get kicked into submission. George Best. George Best. George Best scores 137 goals for Manchester United and wins the 1968 Ballon d'Or, becoming the most electrifying winger in Europe. Nicknamed the Fifth Beatle for his pop star appeal, he draws massive crowds and brutal attention from defenders. Each week brings a new wave of late tackles, two-footed lunges, and body checks, often ignored by lenient referees. By the early 1970s, his injuries start piling up, not because he's fragile, but because the rules allow constant targeting. The English FA responds by instructing referees to crack down on deliberate fouls meant to injure or intimidate. Protection for attacking players becomes a national concern with new enforcement on reckless challenges and late hits. These changes don't arrive fast enough to preserve Best's career at the highest level. He begins to fade by age 27, but they help shift football's mindset. His treatment forces the sport to rethink how stars should be defended, opening space for a new kind of tactical threat. Johan Cruyff. Johan Cruyff. Johan Cruyff wins 3 Ballon d'Ors and leads the Netherlands to the 1974 World Cup final with a revolutionary style built around total football, a tactical system where players rotate positions and maintain high pressing and possession. His vision, movement, and control make him the engine of that Dutch team, but also the target. In nearly every match, he's man-marked, dragged down, or fouled the moment he turns with the ball. Defenders use so-called tactical fouls to break rhythm and slow transition play, often with no consequence. FIFA starts to respond by reviewing not just the action, but the intent behind fouls. New emphasis is placed on obstruction, off-ball interference, and unsporting behavior. Advantage rules evolve to let fluid attacking moves play out, especially when the fouled team retains momentum. Cruyff's signature move, the Cruyff turn, is later immortalized in FIFA's official training guides, an honor rarely given to individuals. His influence forces the game to open up, but with that freedom comes new danger. And a generation later, it nearly breaks Diego Maradona. Diego Maradona. Diego Maradona dominates the 1986 World Cup like no one before him, scoring 5 goals, assisting 5 more, and dragging Argentina to the title. He also suffers 53 fouls in the tournament, still a World Cup record. Defenders kick him relentlessly, using body checks, late tackles, and full-speed lunges to slow him down. Just 3 years earlier, in 1983, Athletic Bilbao's Andoni Goicoechea, nicknamed the Butcher of Bilbao, shatters Maradona's ankle with a studs-up tackle from behind. The incident becomes a turning point. FIFA moves to crack down on violent play, standardizing the use of yellow and red cards after inconsistent refereeing at the 1982 World Cup. New emphasis is placed on protecting creative players from systematic fouling. Maradona's treatment shifts global policy. Referees are now encouraged to act early and decisively against reckless challenges. But even with stricter rules, not every artist survives the brutality. Marco van Basten's career becomes the next cautionary tale. Marco van Basten. Marco van Basten wins 3 Ballon d'Ors, leads the Netherlands to a European Championship in 1988, and scores one of the greatest goals ever in a final. But by age 28, his career is over. Repeated ankle injuries, caused largely by reckless challenges and poor protection from referees, force him into early retirement. He undergoes multiple surgeries, misses 2 full seasons, and never fully recovers. His final professional appearance comes in 1993, years before most legends even hit their peak. FIFA finally responds in 1998, formally banning tackles from behind, even if the ball is touched, citing long-term injuries to stars like Van Basten. The change redefines what's acceptable defensive behavior and puts player safety at the forefront of officiating. Van Basten's early exit becomes a case study in what happens when skill goes unprotected. The rule shift doesn't undo the damage, but it sets a new precedent, just as the next generational forward, Ronaldo Nazario, prepares to endure his own physical crucible. Ronaldo, R9. Ronaldo Nazario emerges in the mid-1990s as the most explosive forward on the planet, scoring 47 goals in a single season for Barcelona and winning 2 Ballon d'Ors by age 23. But defenders quickly adapt, swarming him with double teams, deliberate holding, and forceful collisions, often with no punishment. In an era where two-man challenges are allowed and offside rules still favor defenders, Ronaldo takes repeated hits to his knees. By 2000, he suffers a ruptured patellar tendon, twice, costing him nearly 2 full seasons. FIFA responds by shifting its officiating philosophy to favor attacking players. Offside interpretations are updated in the early 2000s, with benefit of the doubt now given to the attacker when level with the defender. Referees are instructed to clamp down on persistent fouling and obstructive double marking. These rule changes arrive too late to protect peak Ronaldo, but they create a safer, more open game for the next generation of strikers. As forwards gain freedom, playmakers like Zidane start facing a different kind of challenge: provocation off the ball. Zinedine Zidane delivers France its first World Cup in 1998, scoring twice in the final against Brazil and controlling midfield play with unmatched elegance. But throughout his career, he's a magnet for provocation. Defenders man-mark him aggressively, baiting him with off-the-ball contact, shirt pulls, and whispered insults. Zidane often retaliates, sometimes with a shove, sometimes with a red card. By the time of the 2006 final, that tension reaches a breaking point. In the 110th minute against Italy, Zidane headbutts Marco Materazzi in the chest after an alleged insult about his family. It's one of the most infamous moments in World Cup history and earns him a straight red in the final match of his career. The incident leads FIFA and domestic leagues to reassess how retaliation is officiated. VAR protocols are later introduced specifically to monitor off-the-ball actions and simulation, areas where Zidane was both victim and perpetrator. His legacy pushes football toward greater visual oversight, while the next wave of attackers challenges the system in a different way, from inside the box. Arjen Robben. Arjen Robben builds a career on explosive dribbling and sharp cuts inside, but also on his ability to draw contact in the box. At Bayern Munich and with the Netherlands, he earns dozens of penalties by exaggerating minimal fouls, often going down under light touches or strategic trailing leg clips. His fall in the 88th minute against Mexico at the 2014 World Cup earns a decisive penalty and sparks global outrage. Even as Robben admits later, "I sometimes dive." In response, FIFA and UEFA begin tightening language around simulation. The rules are adjusted to address trailing leg fouls and non-substantive contact, giving referees clearer guidance to distinguish between real infractions and theatrical embellishment. By the mid-2010s, simulation becomes a bookable offense, and yellow cards are issued for exaggerated dives, especially in the penalty area. Robben's reputation forces football to draw a line between drawing fouls and deceiving referees. But the issue doesn't end there. It only evolves, reaching new viral levels with Neymar. At the 2018 World Cup, Neymar spent a staggering 14 minutes on the ground, accumulated across 5 matches, prompting ridicule from fans, pundits, and opponents alike. One exaggerated roll against Mexico sparks the number Neymar Challenge, a global meme trend mocking his theatrical reactions. While Neymar is often genuinely fouled due to his dribbling style, the frequency and flair of his falls blur the line between victim and performer. The spectacle becomes impossible for FIFA to ignore. In response, FIFA issues guidance to tighten rules around time wasting and over-the-top exaggeration. Referees are granted more flexibility to extend injury time based on stoppages, specifically including excessive rolling or prolonged reactions. Law revisions begin emphasizing proportionality, meaning players who simulate distress to manipulate match tempo can be penalized. Neymar's antics shift the conversation around gamesmanship, leading directly to policy updates meant to protect the spirit of the game. Meanwhile, defenders start to face scrutiny too, as Sergio Ramos turns tactical fouling into an art form. Sergio Ramos wins 4 Champions League titles with Real Madrid and becomes one of football's most decorated defenders, but also one of its most controversial. He receives 28 career red cards, the most in La Liga history, often for tactical fouls that stop counterattacks or involve excessive force. His approach becomes emblematic of a broader trend: defenders sacrificing discipline to prevent high-speed transitions. As tactical fouling surges across elite football, governing bodies take notice. In 2016, IFAB clarifies the denial of a goal-scoring opportunity (DOGSO) rule, adjusting punishment for fouls based on context. Red cards for cynical last-man fouls, yellows for genuine challenges. Holding and grappling in the box, long overlooked, starts drawing penalties and VAR scrutiny, largely due to defenders like Ramos pushing boundaries. Persistent fouling, once considered gamesmanship, now leads to quicker yellow cards. Ramos doesn't just influence matches, he forces the rulebook to evolve with him. That evolution continues in the modern era, where speedsters like Mbappé challenge defenders in entirely new ways. Messi. Lionel Messi scores over 750 goals and wins 7 Ballon d'Ors by redefining how space, tempo, and decision-making intersect in modern football. As early as his Barcelona peak, defenders begin double-teaming him near the halfway line, often resorting to fouls before he can build momentum. To preserve fluid play and protect attacking brilliance, football's laws begin to subtly adapt. Rule tweaks reward high pressing while punishing late or tactical tackles designed to disrupt build-up transitions. Analytics also evolved to track Messi's impact beyond goals and assists, introducing metrics like zones of influence to quantify where and how he changes matches. Referees guided by these shifts apply the advantage rule more liberally, allowing Messi-style breaks to continue uninterrupted even after contact. Instead of stopping play for every foul, the game prioritizes flow, empowering players who think and move at speed. While Messi bends the rules toward creativity, Cristiano Ronaldo forces referees to redefine what counts as fair physicality in aerial duels. Cristiano Ronaldo scores over 870 goals and wins 5 Ballon d'Ors by turning athleticism into a technical weapon. His signature move, leaping above defenders for powerful headers, forces center-backs to counter with physicality in midair. As Ronaldo's aerial threat grows, so does the number of challenges involving climbing, leaning, and arms to the face. By the mid-2010s, referees begin enforcing stricter limits on the leading arm, penalizing players who use elbows for elevation or balance during jumps. VAR implementation sharpens this focus. Elbows to the head, once considered incidental, are now reviewed in real time, often leading to retroactive yellow or red cards. Off-ball physicality, shirt pulls, body checks, blocking runs, comes under tighter scrutiny, directly aligning with the height of Ronaldo's dominance in the box. His impact helps redefine how aerial duels are officiated, protecting attacking players in a phase of play previously left to discretion. And as defenders adapt, attackers like Mo Salah spark yet another rule overhaul, this time on what happens inside the penalty area. Mo Salah. Since joining Liverpool in 2017, Mo Salah has won 3 Premier League Golden Boots, using pace and tight control to devastate defenders, especially in the box. To stop him, defenders begin resorting to shirt pulling and arm grabs, especially during cuts and diagonal runs. The pattern becomes obvious. Salah gets fouled without going to ground, but referees hesitate to call anything soft. As complaints grow, so does scrutiny from officials and analysts. VAR becomes instrumental in exposing what cameras have missed for years: clear shirt pulls during corners, fast breaks, and off-ball runs. FIFA and the Premier League respond by clarifying the laws. Any visible grab or jersey tug that impedes movement can now result in a penalty, even if the attacker stays on their feet. What was once ignored is now automatic. Salah's case forces the sport to treat contact inside the box with the same seriousness as it does outside, just in time for defenders to start facing even bigger problems, like how to legally stop Kylian Mbappé at full sprint. Kylian Mbappé wins the World Cup in 2018 at just 19 years old, combining blistering speed with precise finishing to terrorize defenders worldwide. His acceleration mimics that of an Olympic sprinter, forcing defenders to take preventative action, often by blocking runs before he even receives the ball. As a result, off-ball fouls spike dramatically with subtle obstructions, body checks, and illegal screens used to cut off momentum. These tactics push officiating into new territory. FIFA responds by emphasizing freedom of movement in the laws of the game, directing referees to penalize any obstruction that prevents an attacker from making an unimpeded run. Tactical fouls off the ball, once considered part of the game, now result in bookings or free kicks even if the ball isn't nearby. The rule shift opens up space for pace-based forwards like Mbappé to thrive without being physically neutralized. And just as defenders adjust, the next wave of rule changes arrives to handle someone even harder to hold. Literally, Erling Haaland. Erling Haaland storms into the Premier League in 2022 and scores 36 goals in his debut season, shattering the single-season record. At 6 feet 5 inches with elite speed and strength, he becomes nearly impossible to mark one-on-one, so defenders start wrestling him instead. Shirt pulling, shoulder locks, and two-handed grapples become common tactics to stop him inside the box. The visual contrast, Haaland tossed around despite his size, forces the issue back into FIFA's spotlight. Referees across top leagues receive new training focused on upper body fouls and illegal contact in tight spaces. Screening, holding, and body checks, especially during corners and crosses, are redefined. and aerial duel rules are updated to balance strength with fairness. What was once just physical defending now draws fouls, penalties, or even bookings. Holland's dominance forces officials to protect strength as much as skill, closing the loop on decades of rule changes driven by the game's most unstoppable players.